What is going on, guys? My name is William Wofford here with Trekkers Delight with my buddy here, Jermaine Watson. What is going on, man?
Nothing much, chilling, bro.
Man, that is what's up, bro. We got some real tea today because this is actually going to be the first time we're doing things a little bit differently today, just a little bit different. Now, even though Prodigy came back out today, don't worry, we got the well as of the time of this live stream, but you're gonna watch it anyway because it's live stream, right? Of course it is. Don't worry, I'm gonna send it to all you guys because it's freaking awesome. But anyway, even though Prodigy came out today, we will actually be reviewing that one tomorrow on Friday. So we will show you a little snippet of that, what it's going to be for tomorrow. But today is actually going to be a Black Trek episode, which we have down here in the lower left corner, depending on the way your screen you're watching it in. So today we're actually going to go into Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country. I love that movie. It's literally one of my favorite films. The effects that they did during that Klingon battle was legit because that was like before CGI. They actually threw like pine cones at each other in real life, and that was like so cool. Like better than all this Michael Bay shit they got going on now. But anyway, that's beside the point. With Black Trek, we tend to explore different representation, what could be interpreted as racism in the world of Star Trek. Now, apparently, there was a lot of ish going on in Undiscovered Country. Jermaine, have you noticed anything unusual about Undiscovered Country?
Anything that I noticed about Undiscovered Country? What do you mean?
That could be interpreted as racist.
Oh, Undiscovered Country that could be interpreted as race. So the movie itself, probably not. However, there were some dialogue within the script that, if you take it to 2021, if you take it to 1980, it was some dog whistle type stuff going on that was like, oh my God. But well, actually, you know what? Yeah, like, so when you said racist, I'm specifically thinking about my race, right?
Right, right. We'll get to that in a second because, like, let's just say under Jane Elliott's tutelage that we're all one race, the human race. This, right, this movie could show racism in its truest form since we're talking about a whole nother humanoid species.
Mhm.
So racist in the original word and the original definition could be applied to this film. And I was wondering, have you noticed anything pertaining to that other than the fact that Klingons were the representation of African Americans and Russians? But we're going to get into that later on.
So look, full disclosure, I haven't seen the movie in like maybe about 5 years.
Right.
And so even all the way back to when I was watching it, I do remember certain aspects of the script. It reminded me of what was happening politically, socially, whether we were talking about at that particular time it was the Soviet Union or even blacks in America. But I saw it more as a commentary and less so this is racist, if that makes sense.
Right. Because it's like when you're watching it, you're like, it's a Star Trek film, and it is. You know, I mean, the Kidder records have to come from somewhere. Yeah, I mean, which they made it. I will say they did make it in a way like it's a Star Trek film. And growing up watching it, can still recite most parts of the movie and tell you what they did. Like I said, most part, I can recite all of Generations. I can do all of Generations like easily. Like I can tell you what shot is where, who's standing on what side of the screen. It's real simple. I can even tell you the orchestral number to it. But that's later on. Later episode, we're going to test William knowledge on that. We're going to just go back to 1992. So. Where was I going, Jermaine? I forgot the point that I was making. It's a Star Trek film, guys. It's a Star Trek film. Hey, someone's watching. Hi. What's up? So it's a Star Trek film, but I had this moment with past Trekkers July episodes where I'm like, how's this racist? I don't get it. I am Confucian. I need someone to really explain this thing to me. So apparently, there were a certain amount of lines that just did not fly over well, even for William Shatner, especially Nichelle Nichols. Now, Nichelle Nichols, she just flat out did not say it. William Shatner, he needed multiple takes, and I forgot what was the name of the actor that played as Cisco's father and the admiral. He was an admiral in Voyage Home and in Undiscovered Country. Well, we know who we're talking about. I like to call him Cisco's father, or let's just say Cisco's great grandfather. How about that?
Yeah. Why you silly?
I mean, that's like the ultimate what if. Like, what if that was Cisco's family the whole time? I mean, we see Worf there. So really, this is just an extension. This is the prequel to Deep Space Nine. Okay, which is why Benjamin Sisko gets hella pissed when a 1950s Vegas representation happens in the Holo Suite. He said, "I ain't going to that shit."
Brock Peters.
Brock Peters, that is his name. So Brock Peters, he needed multiple takes as well. They needed more takes to say these lines than they needed takes to do the first interracial kiss on national television. Not the second, Jermaine. I don't care. Where do you get that it was the second? I know about the other one, but it happened on a lower platform than the national one.
This is true.
Okay. Now, so basically, let me give you the rundown of Undiscovered Country. The Enterprise is 3 months from retirement. They are just chilling in space. That's really all they're doing. They're not right next door to Earth, and they're just chilling. Like after Final Frontier, which for some people shall remain nameless, the crew is just like, guys, I don't mind chilling and relaxing and going home and leaving Star. Like, I'm done with this. Let this ship go to the mothballs and everything.
Which, by the way, let me say this: the best part of Final Frontier was row, row, row your boat.
Oh,
it was the best part. It was the best part. I'm sorry, it was just the best part. But to say that they ended on Undiscovered Country, I'm sorry, that was to me like Voyage Home. I loved Voyage Home, but Undiscovered Country just meant something to me. Like that was my favorite Star Trek movie all up until First Contact. But
right.
Undiscovered Country is like it's emotional. It's full of drama. It's full of like the fighting the Klingons. I don't know about you, but that was the first time that I learned that Klingons had pink blood. I mean, it was everywhere. What did he say? Did he say to be or not to be?
Yeah, he was Shakespearean. Yeah.
Ooh, I was like, oh, he's coming. He's coming for it. I'm sorry. I took a I'm sorry.
Ooh, Lord. Tickle us, do we not laugh? Trick us. Yeah, wrongest shall we not revenge. But anyway, I am as constant as the Northern Star. I give real money if he'd shut up. That was like one of the best fight sequences I have ever seen in Trek. They actually blew a hole in the Enterprise, which haven't you ever wondered, like all those torpedoes, don't they ever blow a hole in these ships? Well, it did this time. Like it just blew a literal hole in the thing. Well, anyway, so let me ask you this. Oh, yeah, we're going over it. So, Praxis, the Klingon moon and energy production mining facility literally blows up to the point where it doesn't exist. The rock that is left is been reduced to a floating meteor. It is worse than the interpretation of Pluto. Like it's just bad. It's just bad. You when they zoom in on that screen, it's just terrible. It's just terrible. Anyway, it looks like you can see like the core, and it's just like a bleeding, and it's like ow, it's like a chunk of flesh that came out, except the rest of it doesn't exist. Anyway, that's beside the point. A big shockwave comes, and my God, which this was before the oh my came from Captain Sulu, which we're glad Captain Sulu gets to Captain the Excelsior, which I thought was pretty legit. And he gets done. So apparently this takes place years after Final Frontier because he spent 3 years in the Beta Quadrant somehow cataloging gaseous anomalies. There is an earthquake on the ship. which is basically vibrations going through space, because the shockwave is coming, baby. It's coming harder than it did in generations when that level 12 shockwave came and destroyed that station. Well, anyway, they came. My God, flipped the ship, flipped their shit, and they just like, don't tell me that was any meteor shower. I cannot confirm the existence of Praxis, sir. Praxis is their key energy production facility. Like all of that. So anyway, I told you I can quote some of it. Well, and then in between it, we have our flashback with Voyager, but we're not going to count that. We just know that it happened. Okay, so just imagine Janeway's somewhere on that ship. Okay, even though it's just a memory for Tuvok. Tuvok's definitely on that ship. He's on the ship. Tuvok was on the ship.
Yes.
And I don't care what anyone says. He was on the Enterprise B2. He just didn't have his ears. Period.
Way back.
Period. Way back. Well, anywho, Solar Moon blows up, which pretty much starts the entire story, because now the energy reserves for Kronos, which is the Klingon homeworld, are now depleting. So some of them are becoming, in a sense, energy-seeking refugees, and they migrate to the Federation, which does not sit well with a lot of people at all. So pretty much the equivalent of Romulus losing their homeworld to a supernova is pretty much happening to Kronos. And even though that's like an 80, 85, 90 year gap, but same script, different cast.
Or if you want to talk about what's going on today, what's going on in the Middle East, and how people are leaving the Middle East to get to Europe, and how Europe is dealing with that, or how people are leaving Latin America and attempting to come to the United States, and how the United States is dealing with it.
Exactly. That all being said, now that we know the situation, Jermaine, how today, right now, how do you interpret the Enterprise's and the Admiral's reaction to this catastrophe that happened to Kronos?
When you say the Enterprises, do you mean Captain Kirk?
Well, I would say, aside from Spock, the majority of the Enterprise crew and a lot of big heads in Starfleet, like the Admiral clearly said, they would become the alien trash of the galaxy.
Yes, clearly.
Right.
No doubt.
Right.
No doubt.
Now, we know on the back end, Kirk lost his son to the Klingons. He practically heard him die. When it's just a lot of stuff. And when really, if you think about it, Kirk is carrying the guilt of ever leaving Spock on the planet in the first place versus taking him to Vulcan, but that's beside the point. But how would you judge their initial reactions that were apparently racist lines as deemed by the cast?
So, all right. So what is being asked of, what is being told to the crew of the Enterprise is basically, hey, look, this is what we're about to do. And all of a sudden, they have to have an initial reaction, right? And so their initial reaction is, this is the Klingons. We've been battling the Klingons for decades. And now all of a sudden, just like that, you want us to now think of them as our ally? Whoa, let's take a beat. Let's think about this for a second, right? So them basically saying, I don't know about this. To me, that's normal. That makes sense. It makes sense, right? Let's think about this for a second. However, when what they're proposing, and I'm talking specifically about Starfleet / the Federation, what they're proposing is a peace treaty, which could lead to, an alliance of some sort between the Federation and the Klingons. I get, like if someone were to say, whoa, hold up, let's think about this militaristically, right? We've got such and such here, we got such and such here. If they become our ally, they'll know boo, and let's say, some other chancellor comes to power, and like I understand, like if they had conversations like that, but for him to make him being Admiral, what's his name? I don't know. I don't remember his name.
Cartwright.
Admiral Cartwright. Oh my goodness, oh my goodness. Anyway,
I loved his name. It was like my favorite name.
for him to make some of the statements that he made, and to me, his statements were the most outrageous. Forget Kirk, right? Like if all you're doing is you're looking at all of these different characters as they are, and you look at what they've said, yes, to me, Kirk's response is emotional. It's emotional because it's almost like filled with vengeance. This is what they deserve,
What they
right?
deserve.
This is what they deserve for doing what they've done, for doing what they've done to my son, for doing what they've done for all of these years, right? They haven't been playing by the conventional wisdom of how worlds interact with each other. I get that, but Admiral Cartwright, this dude is like, we're better than them, and they don't deserve a seat at this table, right? And that harkens us to some of the things that we've been hearing for hundreds of years in the United States, right? It's a clear line. They don't deserve a seat at this table.
Interesting. So, would you interpret Kirk to the Klingons what Picard is to the Borg? Do you think Picard would have that same initial reaction if they were asked to have a seat at the Federation?
Do I think Picard would have had the same? No.
What do you think he would have done? If this was like a TNG movie and it was Picard and the Borg.
Picard and the Borg?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Picard would have been like, Now, okay. So, let me take a step back. All right. So, because of First Contact, I'm saying that because of First Contact. I'm thinking about First Contact. Now, as he has evolved, I think he would have probably have needed some reassurances. Like, who are you now?
PTSD just from being on that cube. Like,
yeah, like, who are you now? Like, what about you is different? Because from what I remember, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've seen some drones who've been willing to,
come
be
back.
Programmed, but based on what I know, so I'm gonna need some reassurances. I would see Picard from the television show Picard saying, "I'm gonna need some reassurances. I'm not jumping on that boat, right? I'm not."
And that's what he literally said. That's what he literally said when he was having that conversation with Hugh. He's like, what is going on here? And he had no idea. It sucked that they quite literally all died, but which bad writing in my opinion. But anyway, yeah. How you going to rehabilitate them? I don't care if it was Romulans. How you going to rehabilitate them and then just kill them all? Like all of them? All of them? I'm like, why? Don't bring back Hugh. No. Like, they could have at least I'm sorry. I get into rants, guys. I get into rants when I'm just like back to the topic at hand. All right. So the connection. Let's talk about this connection to Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Have you ever seen the movie Guess Who or the original one Guess Who's Coming to Dinner?
Guess Who's Coming to Dinner? I saw Guess Who like maybe about 10 years ago. Yes, I did.
Okay. So you see the parallels between both Guess Who and Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. You pretty much know what the generalized plot is.
Yeah.
How in what way, besides the Walter King line, in what way does that plot compare to Undiscovered Country?
It's just the cultural tensions that exist, right? So it's like, whoa, wait a minute, right? Like, you want to do this? I ain't ready for it. I don't know about that, right? And then you slowly start to see different layers being pulled back. I'm talking about Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, and also in Undiscovered Country. Some layers are slowly being pulled back, and you see a potential future, right? Because you see that they're willing to change, right? Some people are willing to change. I think the speech that the father made in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner was basically like his, I've found my awakening, and I see things differently now, and I'm going to give this my blessing. What is his name? General Kane? What was his name?
Cartwright, you mean?
No, the Klingon who died.
Oh, Chancellor. He was a chancellor too. No.
And his daughter kind of took over.
Wow. Normally I would know this.
So
yeah, keep talking.
So what he was kind of like, to me, he was like poking, right? He was poking holes in Kirk, right? I'm just gonna keep poking. I'm gonna make you see that that this is a possibility, but it was the daughter. The daughter was the one who was
Chancellor
able to make Chancellor who?
Gorkin.
Okay. So she was able to make that emotional appeal, right? Because you remember it was Sidney Poitier's mother who she was the one that, out of all those people who were trying to get him to see the light, she said, "Do you remember what it was like to fall in love? Do you remember what you felt like? What it felt like to be in love?" So she hearkened him back to, those old days. And similarly, what the daughter was doing was she was calling upon their humanity. She was calling upon the humans' humanity. A Klingon was calling upon the humans' humanity.
That's deep. Because when you were talking about that speech, it reminded me of Kirks Speech. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's because of the future, Madam Chancellor. Because some people think the future means the end of history. Your father called the future the undiscovered country. People might be afraid to change. And the daughter said, "You restored my father's faith." And Kirk said, "You restored my son's." Mm-hmm. He admitted not only how other people felt, but how he felt. Mm-hmm. And how he was willing to change. Now, to me, that is something Kirk would say. Because it's like, the dude lost his son. He lost his son. Klingons were douches, that never took a bath. At least I think they didn't in TOS. But he really didn't. He even when they grew ridges on his head, he did not care. Like, we knew when they grew ridges, it was like, like, it's just like.
Yeah. But wait, do you love the way that in the Undiscovered Country they made that slow progression towards ridges? Do you like did you notice that?
I noticed it. I absolutely noticed it. Now, I wasn't mad. Well, side note, I wasn't mad about the bald-headed Klingons that we saw in the J.J. Abrams films. Because of what we General Chang was bald-headed himself. I think he had a string of hair in the back. He swore he was like, the dude thought he was on Cobra Kai, and he thought he was a Jedi, and
it was the patch, bro. It was the patch. He had me on the patch.
He had me on the patch, and rest in peace to the actor that played him that passed away about 2 years ago. But yeah, oh my goodness, and the fact that he was Shakespearean. Like, you have not read Shakespeare until you read it in the original Klingon. He literally pulled a Q move. Where Q, because that's something that other aliens will go through humans' culture and then call them out on it. Like, how you gonna say you this, but you doing this over here? And that's basically showing humanity is not perfect. It will never be perfect. There's no such thing as perfect. If you try to aspire to be perfect, something wrong with you, honey. I'm sorry. But other than that,
well, I don't think anything is wrong with aspiring to be perfect.
You can aspire to be. Just
realize that it's not gonna happen.
Just reach for excellence, but don't beat yourself up if it's not
perfect.
Don't learn hard like Seven did, because you can do everything right, and shit will still hit the fan.
That's like Kobayashi Maru.
Exactly, which he cheated on that test, by the way.
Which one? Which one cheated? Who are you talking about?
Kirk cheated.
Have you seen Prodigy?
I have not seen Prodigy yet.
It's not really a cheat, but it's close to a cheat.
Yo, Jermaine made me a thirsty bitch. But anyway, so I'll be honest with you. When I can understand why Nichelle Nichols refused to say the line, "Guess who's coming to dinner." I can understand that reasoning. But the "let them die," they're going to be the alien trash of the galaxy, X, Y, and Z, X, Y, and Z. We got to understand. It's not like these are Cardassians and Bajorans. I can understand that dynamic a little bit more. These are Klingons, which are warriors from birth, and they like to bully people interpretively. And the Federation. They've been enemies for 200 years?
I think something that is everything that you're saying is valid. I think one thing that I would add to that is it's very clear, at least to some of us, it's very clear that the Klingons were always meant to be, in my opinion, blacks in America.
Why?
Because they were the other, right? They were the ones that we fear. And there's no race, there's no being, there's no culture, there's no ethnic group that whites in America fear more than blacks in America.
Because they have reason to.
They're afraid of everything that happened in the past. They're wondering why we haven't gone apeshit crazy.
Now it's about to get good. Hold up. I'm gonna ask you something. That all being said, okay, we know we're in 2021 now, and we also know that Klingons were interpreted as Russians and African Americans, and they didn't give a shit about. They did not give two shits or half a damn about blackface in the early 1960s. Just didn't. Okay, and well, let's make up in there and alien. Nah, they didn't have bridges yet, and we knew who they were meant to be. Who they were originally meant to be. They didn't have the appropriation theory 101 read yet. They didn't have none of that. Okay, so we know who they're meant to be. So today, would you have that reaction? Let's just say, in a few years, that actually probably in another decade or so, the combined minorities will outnumber Caucasians in the Americas. Okay? When that happens, how do you see yourself comparatively in Undiscovered Country, where you're on the side of the Federation, right? And now Caucasians are the minority of the minorities.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Would you have the same heart Kirk did? Or would you interpret things differently in that distant future?
I would like to think that I would have had an evolution, much like Kirk had. I would like to think that I had an evolution. And the reason I say that is because, well, number one, I'm a fairly objective thinker. And so I tend not to throw all of my emotions in it. My emotions are there, but I tend to think objectively, right? Even though I understand that I'm often in the minority, like I don't really care about that. Like this is how I feel, and these are my reasons for it, right? And so I think I definitely would have had that evolution that Kirk had, and many of them had, right? I think Kirk's evolution was personal, right? Everyone else just needed some time. They just needed some time. Yeah.
So let me throw this variable in there. If, for racist purposes, a Caucasian person killed someone, let's say a member of the KKK, went out of their way and murdered your son, would you have the exact same reaction Kirk did? The "let them die" part.
Oh, they dying. They going to hell. I'm leading as soon as they transport onto the Enterprise, I'm killing them.
Just done.
It's over with.
It's
over with.
Because have they not abused their privilege enough as it is? So it is personal because I'm not a parent, so I wouldn't really know. And I hope I never know what that pain is like. But he's coming from a parental perspective, because not only let's just in Kirk's shoes, not only does he have a son, he's never even been in his son's life.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't even know that was David until he soccer punched him in the gut.
Mm-hmm.
And had to ask his baby mama, is that David?
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't even bring him back because the real actor died 2 years later from a drug overdose.
Stop.
That's how much it killed him.
Stop. You're so stupid. You're so stupid.
Man, they opened that it was just bad. It was just bad, y'all. They didn't have to do him like that. Man. But anyway, I'm sorry, y'all. That wasn't right.
So stupid.
Honestly, when I put myself in Uhura's shoes,
or Nichelle Nichols,
like, yeah, I feel like if I were the actor in that role, the communications officer, I feel like, see, okay, when it comes to William, there's this genuine objective side, and then there's this petty side. Okay, because this is Star Trek, I would have probably done what she did. But honestly, there's a small part of me, if this was a whole different film, there was a part of me that said, hell, I'll say it a certain way. I'll say it sarcastic as fuck. Like, as far as guess who's coming to dinner, and probably added another line at the end of that, because that was originally her line.
Okay, but hold on. So you remember you said you were going to ask a question, and then we would have had to find the evidence. I'm waiting on that question because you're encroaching on that.
Okay. What makes the lines in this movie racist?
I think you wanted to ask who determines.
Well, yeah, because it's like, I want to know our interpretation of it, their interpretation of it, whoever it is. Who determines what is racist in Star Trek, since we're at the 30-minute mark? Who determines what is racist in Star Trek? Is it the actors? Is it the cast? Is it the producers? Is it the directors? Or is it the fans?
The producers determine what is. The producers / anyone who is over who is on management, right? So if they're the director, if they're an executive producer, if they're a producer, if they're the writer, all of them, they determine what is. And this is my evidence for it. All right. So I don't know if you are going to play the clip, but the evidence is this. So William Shatner refused to do a line. And then they came and they talked to him. And then he said, okay, I'll do it, but let me have this reaction after the fact.
Right.
What did they do? They cut it.
Ooh.
They cut it.
They
right?
wronged.
So his reaction after the fact would have at least given some nuance, right?
Exactly.
It would have made you think, was this something that he was just his gut reaction was this, and then he was just like, you know what I'm saying? But they cut that. So all we saw was his gut reaction. His gut reaction was let him die. I don't give up.
They broke their promise to him.
Exactly. And who wrote the script?
That's what I want to know. Who wrote it? Because it wasn't Gene.
No. That's my point. My point was the people who wrote the script determined, what would be. Gene Roddenberry, he didn't like it. He didn't like it. Not quite certain why he didn't like it, but he didn't like it, right?
He just didn't like it. And he lived long enough to see it.
Exactly. So in post-production, when they were editing it, all of those people were part of this, right? There were the people at Paramount. They could have said, nah, add this back. This is not what Star Trek is. Add this back. But all along the way, there were there were opportunities to say, nah, we don't like this. And from your black actors and white actors, they were very uncomfortable with this. And we're talking about the early 90s. We're not talking about 2021. You know what I'm saying?
They had evolved to that point.
Exactly. And so if this is what they were saying, and you really just have your director / writer saying, nah, I'm doing this. That's who determines what is. Because remember, who really leads the editing process? It's the director.
It's the director. It's true. Very true. And when it comes to the cinematic chain of command, the director has the say. The producer may provide the money, but the director has the say. The hell if I know who wrote it.
The clip that you gave, the writer was the director.
The writer was the director.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Are we able to see that? Are we able to see that clip?
I'm actually was trying to bring it up. Like I have the link, but I was trying to download the video and just do it. Is there a way that I can just like play it with the YouTube link here?
You can share your screen. Now I don't know if Facebook is gonna flag it.
Who cares? Fine. Let's do this. Back here we go. Yeah, here we go. And I'm going to share my screen, which should prove interesting. All right, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Can you hear it?
Not yet. No, cannot.
Can't hear it.
Nope.
Well, oof. Let me see if I can. Okay. Well, go more in depth with what you feel like, by your judgment, are those lines justified? Are they justified in their racism, or were they racist in the first place?
Okay, so you know, like I have a different way in which I view things.
Can you tell me how you view this?
So in order to get the cinematic value, like there has to be some tension, right?
Right.
There has to be some tension. What I thought was so, profound is not the word, but for lack of a better word, profound. What was so profound about what was happening, was it was a black man who was saying these things, and they
did that on purpose. They did that on purpose.
Even to me, even in the 90s, I was in high school, right? I understood. I was like, wait a minute. Does he realize what he's saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, does he really realize what he's saying?
Right.
And now to see this, to see the clip that we can't show, to see this clip, like it brings all of this to life. And it's like, wow, like, you know what, like everybody was on the same page. Everybody had like misgivings about it. But that to me is what made that movie so beautiful. That's what made that movie so beautiful, because they were able to show the human condition and all of its flaws, and then overcome.
You know, when I watched Undiscovered Country, I watched it as if it were completing a story arc for Kirk's journey. Because it's like, if you take out motion picture and you take out Final Frontier, you actually have a story arc. The set from Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, The Voyage Home, and Undiscovered Country. If you put those 4 movies together, it's not an episodic. You have 2 other episodic movies, but it's not an episodic movie franchise anymore. It's climactic
Mhm.
because all of this started from because we already knew in the back end Klingons were always enemies with the Federation since the
Mhm.
beginning.
Mhm.
But this was started when Kirk lost his best friend
Mhm.
to Khan, so to speak, when Spock was trying to save the ship.
Mhm.
He decides to have a Federation-esque funeral, which his body just happens to land on,
Mhm.
Genesis.
Mhm.
And he's like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm just gonna leave him here. What possessed that? I don't know. I don't know. That's your best friend, honey. You take it back to his father. Like, you're in the Alpha Quadrant, okay? You're not in the Delta. You don't just okay. Well, anyway,
Did he say this is a question because I don't really remember, but was this like part of his will? Like something that he said he wanted to have happen?
no, he wanted to be returned to Vulcan. His
Who
body,
really?
but it's Vulcan tradition too, unless you're lost in the Delta Quadrant like Janeway.
Wow. So Kirk took it upon himself to do this. Do you think perhaps Kirk had it somewhere in his subconscious that perhaps this could happen? So almost like a what
What
if
could happen? What could happen?
that Spock could be brought back to life.
You know, every person that makes a decision that is controversial, there is that 1% in the back of your mind subconsciously where you're thinking, this definitely won't work, but I'm going to do it anyway because of this reason. Who's to say? This whole thing was about Genesis. All of it. The name itself, I'm surprised they didn't make a movie called Star Trek Genesis. I'm really surprised about that, but the Terminator took that. So anyway, he loses his best friend. He leaves his body. They limp all the way back to Earth somehow. And Sarah gets on to Kirk. Kirk feels guilty. He steals the Enterprise, which, by the way, I loved that scene so much. Did they just steal in a ship? Like, who does that? Oh, Jim Kirk. Yeah, absolutely. Like, Jim Kirk is better than Jim Gordon from Batman. So, anywho, steals the ship. Excelsior tries to chase him down. Couldn't because Scotty screwed it up. So they didn't have no transwarp drive. No. No, by the way, and that was the first time we heard transwarp drive at that point. So I guess they abandoned the project because Scotty put them off of it and secretly installed it on the Enterprise. That's how they made it. That's my theory on how they made it to the center of the galaxy so damn quickly in Star Trek V. they always had transwarp drive. Anyway, they go back to try and get Spock just to get his body. Don't even know he's alive. And his son and Savick are down there. Son dies at the hand of the Klingons, led by time-traveling Christopher Lloyd, which for some reason he decided to play as a Klingon in this timeline. Did you want to play a role that bad, Doc? Michael J. Fox would be so disappointed in you, like honestly. And that's what generated this whole thing. The Enterprise blows up. They had to take the Klingon ship. They used the Klingon ship to travel back in time to Earth to stop the screwage of whales, which coincidentally whales started repopulating from the time of that movie release up until today. So that's actually, kudos. I hope we heal the Earth in that time too. Mm-hmm. Deanna, we skip over just Star Trek V and we jump into the years later, probably a good 5, 6, 7-ish years later, something around that point, because Sulu is now captain, because we still need a reason to see him, because he's Sulu, because he said it at the end of Star Trek V. I have my eye on Excelsior, and now.
So I have a question, just kind of taking it back to Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. Mm-hmm. So when Chekhov says, "Guess who's coming to dinner?"
Yes.
So my question is this: how would that movie At least in that moment. How would that movie have changed if Uhura or Nichelle Nichols had said that line instead of Chekhov?
She would have been sanctioning it. But I gotta tell you though, me personally knowing William, oh shit, he's waiting for me to say. Me personally knowing William, watching it the first 20 times before 2021, that William right there, I would have loved that shit. I would have loved it. Because I'm like, hey, you heard I said it. Yeah. And it would have had that punch feeling that the director intended. Because that's what he wanted all along. She flat out said no. She pulled a Rosa Parks on him. Nah. Well,
you know what? That's what I really love about Nichelle Nichols, because look, she was in a game. She was in a game, but she seemed to have played it so well. You know what I'm saying? Like she was able
and
to
last all the way.
all the way and be loved. Like to this day, it doesn't matter who you are, what you are, everyone loves her. Like true, right? She doesn't get the shine that some of the other cast members did, but you got to remember that at the beginning, her character was
monumental.
Exactly. More so than any one of theirs. More so. Like I was telling Manny, she received the most fan letters. The most.
So they weren't hate letters, they were fan letters?
Fan letters.
Shut up.
Fan letters. You know, of course she got hate letters, right? Of course. But her fan letters eclipsed that of everyone. You know, all she really got was like every week she got like 2 or 3 every week. She felt like her character was unloved because she was Black.
Maybe unloved by certain people, the same way Michael Burnham's character is unloved.
Only because she got 3. Now that's a different question. That's actually is not really a different question. What I'm saying is it's just a different situation. It's a different situation only because she's leading, right? If she had been the science officer, if she had been the first officer,
no one would have said anything.
Now all of a sudden she's a Black woman. Now she's a Black woman, and now
with
nobody
braids in the captain's seat,
and nobody likes her. Everyone is picking apart every decision that she makes, and they don't even realize that they're doing it.
So when they don't realize that they're doing it, is it sanctioned the same way that Kirk and the rest of the Enterprise crew's behavior is sanctioned when they respond to the Klingons at the dinner table?
Do you mean people in the real world, or do you mean people on Star Trek?
I'm comparing reactions to Michael Burnham's in the captain's seat to the Enterprise crew reaction at the dinner table at the dinner scene. Like, are they the same? Are they the different? How do they compare and contrast? I know the answer. I just want to hear your thoughts on it.
I think I think that they are the same. I think that they are bigoted. I think what is different, this is what's different.
What's the difference?
The difference to me is that when they were at the table, everyone knew full well what the situation was. Everyone knew. But the people today who are criticizing Michael Burnham, they don't even realize where their hatred is coming from. They don't. It's a two-pronged type of hatred. It is a hatred towards females, and it's a hatred towards Blacks. Bottom line, plain and simple.
And then we got 2 and 1.
Bottom line, plain and simple.
Okay. Did you hear of anyone else that have because I read most of the backlash comments on social media when Discovery first came out, and the only hideous thing I have to say was about the Klingons and the design of Discovery. That's all I had to say. But I was appalled but not surprised by the reaction of Michael Burnham. What did you read anything that was like, damn, that's racist as fuck? Why are y'all doing her like this?
So I'll be honest with you. Like I guess I was living like my own little bubble. I was like, oh my God, I love this show. Like I wasn't like in tune with what people were saying online. I didn't give a damn. Like that online world, don't give a.
What?
I don't care. All right. So it wasn't until I started like this podcast that I realized the hatred towards Michael Burnham,
What
like
you mean?
sheer hatred.
You mean yeah? And then
And
they say I just don't like her, but won't give a valid reason. She doesn't have enough character development. This show is nothing but development for her.
nothing but, nothing but. And the whole thing about it was, like, we were told up front, she's not going to become captain right away. It is going to take some time. So that in and of itself tells you that she is developing herself for this captaincy, right? What you're saying is irrelevant. It means nothing, right? And then, and let's explore this. She realizes that the Klingons, I'm talking about season 1, she realizes that the Klingons are not going to accept anything other than battle. What you're doing right now, like that's foolishness. You've got to attack. And if you're going to attack the Klingons, you've got to attack them the best way that you can. And that's exactly what she did. Now, they blamed her for going to war with the Klingons and yada, 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 yada. But guess what? That was going to happen regardless.
Period.
If you watch the first episode, that was going to happen regardless.
The Klingons were going to blow that ship up if she hadn't done what she did.
So all that I'm saying is you're mad at her because she's smart. You're mad at her because she's insightful. You're mad at her because she's logical. You're mad at her because she okay, I get it. She disobeyed orders. I get that. In the world of Star Trek, I get that. But at the end of the day, when it's proven facts, when it's proven that had she not done what she did, the Federation would have been worse off.
They would have been gone. I think the surprising part about this is actually, before I even get into that, I kind of liked the parallels that I saw between her character and Sisko's character, because Sisko was accused of bringing the Dominion into the Alpha Quadrant, thus into the war, when really he was just doing his job as a Starfleet officer, but they didn't give a shit. He just got a bad rep, you know? And the parallel with that in the real world is, it does not matter if we fight tooth and nail doing exactly what we're told to do. At the end of the day, they will blame us. They will create the mess, give us the mess, and when we don't clean up their mess, it's our fault.
It's like the Republicans and the Democrats in America. It's like whenever the Democrats gain power in Congress and also the presidency, like, we're spending all of our time cleaning up what happened before. And guess what the Republicans don't do? They don't change. They don't change anything that the Democrats did. They don't. And what's so amazing to me is that Republicans don't even understand that. They don't change what we did because they know that what we did was the right thing for America. Like, come on. I'm sorry. We're talking about politics, and that's not, look.
I mean, this is Black Trek. We here now.
Yeah, like, it's Black Trek, but that's
honestly, guys, this is like half of what our first episode was. Like, oh god, that one we went all in. Okay. So at that dinner table scene, which side is which? Who are the Democrats and who are the Republicans, and why? Or is it neither and both?
When you said neither and both, that complicated things, because what I was about to say was, I would think that the Democrats are on the Klingon side, and here's why. Because it's the Klingons that are offering the olive branch, right? It's the Federation that is resistant, right?
Yeah. The Federation as a whole are resistant, even though they're under orders to do this and do that, you know. But at that conference, at that Admiral conference, they made clear how they felt. Mm-hmm. Ain't no one in there in that room says you're wrong. Ain't no one in there said that. And as a matter of fact, most of them were quiet, because what is it? Silence is still violence. They were quiet. They were like hushed. They were like, sipping their tea.
I think if anything, it was probably. I think they all agreed with him. I think, but I think it was, if anything, they were kind of shocked at how emotional his appeal was.
That, and it's like, I know I'm getting a little bit off topic, but it's making me explore Picard a little bit more. The Federation can be full of shit. And here's why. It is actually not surprising that the Federation would abandon Romulus when they knew that star was about to go nova. They knew, which means they had ample time, which explains why Spock was sucked in at the last minute, because they didn't do shit. So he threw a black hole into it just to make it stop, but it was too late.
Can somebody explain to me why the Romulans didn't know? I'm certain it's something that I missed. How is it that the Romulans didn't know that their star was about to go supernova?
I'll tell you what it is. The same problem that America has. They're too busy spying and messing with everyone else that they don't realize what's going on their own world. I said it.
I don't.
But here's the thing. Spock told them. Now, we've learned in Picard that a good chunk of Romulans evacuated the planet.
Okay.
We did learn that because they moved to a whole other planet. And this was obviously before Navarre. This was obviously before that.
Right. Because they also had like a Romulan senator and such and such and such and such. So.
Right. Which means if we're talking at that point 700 years in the future, well, yeah, something around there. So we're talking about 700 to 800 years in the future, right? Then that means that there has to be.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm talking about on Picard. On Picard, there was.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Because between Navarre and Picard, that means that there has been a big number of Romulan refugees to mix so heavily with the Vulcans to create Navarre. 10,000 Romulans ain't shit. You need several million. So the Federation just ain't nothing. I understood Picard's reaction because Picard ain't going. I think that's the difference between Picard and Kirk. Because Picard, even in his old age, what did Riker say? So you want to be in knee deep in Romulan shit for the rest of your life, and it quite literally was the rest of his life. But that ain't none of my business.
I love Picard. I love Picard. I really do love Picard. I think his detachment, I think his devotion to duty, I think his love for Federation mores and rules and principles. Like, I loved all of that. I also loved his streak of saying, I don't care. This is what we're gonna do.
He says it so politely too.
I think every now and then you gotta buck the system to show the system this is fucked up. You know what I'm saying?
This is also true. Like, I think my favorite "Don't mess with me" line is when he stood up to that Klingon and said, "You may test that assumption at your convenience." I was like, you have a horrible French accent, but don't ever let me get you angry. Don't ever let me get on your bad side.
He doesn't even have a French accent. There was no attempt to have a French accent. Not one.
It was just straight up English. They could have said that he was named after some French dude. They could have just did that, but no, they made him French.
I don't know. The only thing that I can think is like the original show had a lot of people there were like a lot of people in France that watched the original, and so they wanted to like throw a bone at France or something. That's the only thing that I can think. And if you think like LaForge, where does that name come from? LaForge, I could only think of from the French.
I mean, LaForge. Let's see what it means. LaForge. Not Laforge, LaForge. Of course, it comes up as Geordie.
Mhm.
Okay, it's a French name, a
Mhm.
topographic name for someone who lived by a forge, or a metonymic occupational name for someone who has worked in one, a variant of a forge with a definite article. Yeah, So, forge, literally.
In
Ping, ping,
French.
ping, in
In
French.
French. And so,
Literal
like, they
forge.
were throwing a lot of bones at France, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Whatever. Like, no one
And,
really
and,
cares about that.
and then tried to have a French captain in Voyager.
Yes.
I
Like,
saw that.
what the fuck? What's going on with France? Like,
I
oh,
was
is
so
it France
scared.
or is it Africa? Because a lot of people in Africa speak
No,
French.
no,
Like, what's like,
no, it was straight up French. It's like
straight up France?
instead of saying engage, she said engage.
But you know what? I'm so glad they switched
I'm glad she
actors.
knew she couldn't do it. I'm glad she knew. They filmed the first episode. Honestly, I would just put up the first episode with her in it just to see.
It was like a damn cardboard. Like, the
It
fuck?
was so stale.
Like what the fuck
She
am I
was better.
watching?
She was better off playing as one of the mistresses on the holodeck. She
in the first season when they
Thank you.
had no
The first
emotion.
season. Yeah. The crazy bitch who was trying to kill Janeway for sleeping with her man. But but one of them with the fucking toot and the shit and yeah. What was the name? What did Janeway call that woman? She was the same woman that played as the Romulan trick on TNG. Madam I don't know. Templeton. Something. This is Templeton or something like that. What kind of name is Templeton? Like that should have been the captain's name. And she should have been on the holodeck. She should have been on the holodeck as one of those characters. Now I see her there. Not in the later one where they have a whole town and all that. No. Put her in the beginning before Janeway finds her first love interest in a hologram. I said it.
And
so
you haven't seen Prodigy, have you?
I have not seen it, but I'm willing to play this clip that we have here, done by you, Jermaine. Thank you so much for sending it to me. Here it is.
All right. So in the latest episode of Prodigy, we see that Chakotay was the captain of the Protostar. We also learn that the Protostar was sent to the Delta Quadrant, although we don't exactly know why. So that was something that was kind of left hanging. After watching the episode, I have a few questions to ask, and I hope that they can be answered relatively soon. Number one, what time period does Prodigy exist in at the time that it first went to the Delta Quadrant? Because I'd like to know whether Chakotay is still alive. Number two, clearly it was Chakotay who chose the Janeway hologram. I wondered whether he really had feelings for Janeway all along. Why Janeway? Why did he choose Janeway, like out of all the different people in the Star Trek universe? And three, we see Dal nearly beat the Kobayashi Maru. Is Starfleet Command in his future? And finally, number four, this was a great callback to Spock, Uhura, Odo, and even Scotty. Crusher too. Crusher's still alive, obviously. But you notice that in this particular episode, they said, because Dal asked for the best officers. So by choosing these officers, this episode of Prodigy is basically saying that those were the best of the best officers that Star Trek had to offer.
That was good. I kind of
Prodigy.
I kind of muted it halfway through.
Oh, you didn't want to hear it?
No,
it was just questions. It was just questions.
Yeah, it was questions, but it was like one of those things. Have you ever just taken you're a teacher? I'm sure your students have done this. Have you ever just taken a test and you knew not to ask the teacher for a blatant answer? So what you do is you ask assumptive questions to try and figure out what the answer is not.
Yes.
Well, some of those questions were like, oh shit, we actually do get a hint of this character. We actually do know, oh my god, like, you know, stuff like that. Well, anyway, Chakotay, cool. Dude beats Kobayashi Maru, cool, all that. And then after that, I was like, I can't. Because right after this, I'm going to watch it now. I'm going to watch it like right after this.
It's an excellent episode. I have to say, it's an excellent episode. It is a great callback to Trek at some of its finest, honestly.
Okay.
And I will say this. So even though they don't bring, besides Janeway, they don't bring anyone back from Voyager, but that's because Janeway herself is there, and it's really all about Chakotay, right? So there's no need to bring them back. So they're really bringing everyone else back. But who is missing? Think about it. Who's missing?
I mean,
what cast? What cast is missing? That's what I mean.
Oh, from Voyager?
From Star Trek.
From Star Trek.
Mm-hmm. Enterprise.
They don't mention them.
They don't mention Enterprise at all. At all.
I mean, well, you're trying to narrow down the timeline.
Really, truly, I am, because I want to know whether or not Chakotay is alive. I want to know whether or not they find Chakotay.
Okay.
But well, there's another thing that happens at the end. I'm not going to tell you because, you know, now remember. Well, I kind of said, I don't know if I said it. So let me be quiet. I'm just going to be quiet. I'm not going to spoil any more than I already have. There's a lot that goes on in this episode.
So so this is like mid-season finale type.
No, we're starting all over. We're filling in the gap that Discovery is leaving.
So well, I mean, yeah. So what you're saying is Discovery and Prodigy are like flip-flopping, taking turns.
Kind of, yeah. Mm-hmm.
In a way. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. Says, this is my thoughts. I think, honestly, that's got to be the biggest post-Trek question of all. Now that the Picard questions have been answered, so to speak, what happened to Seven and Chakotay? How they break? We know they broke up. We know they did. We also know in the alternate timeline, Chakotay died, just like an alternate timeline, Troy died. You know, they always have these alternate timelines where some main person dies.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I can see how Seven has developed into a bisexual character, which is cool. But we all knew, we all knew from the jump that Chakotay and Janeway were in love. We knew it.
I did. I definitely knew that he had feelings for her. There were like maybe one or two times that I was just like, does she? Does she?
The way he says Catherine every time.
Now, you know that mother. He's soft. You know he's soft.
Who the hell, bro? Who else on that ship does he call someone by their first name like that?
That's because he's the commander. Like that's the one right that he has. As you know,
first name basis.
Yeah, especially if she's a woman. Especially if she's a woman.
Nah, he was in love with that bitch, and you knew it. Like,
yeah.
He's like, yeah. You got hypocrisy. Like, you can't. Like,
look,
you can't.
I was here for it though. Like, I wanted it though. Like, I wanted it to happen because all up until then, we didn't see anything. Like, the closest that we got was with Benjamin Sisko and your girl, Cassidy Yates. But Cassidy Yates wasn't part of the cast of Star Trek, right?
She was just she was a freighter captain.
Right. So this would have been the first time that we saw two cast members, you know, not really like fall in love, even though what was first introduced to us was Bashir and Kira Nerys in real life. They did. So we were accepting of that. So I think that was like the impetus for them to say, if it's okay with that, perhaps they'll be okay, like, in real life. I think Chakotay was in. Let me be quiet.
It's the pouring of the wine for me. Because now I really got to see it so we can. Oh my goodness, I'm not sleeping until I watch it. I promise you. Like,
please do.
Oh yeah. So all right. Overall recap. Undiscovered Country had these lines. Cass wasn't really cool with it. Gene Roddenberry wasn't cool with it. The director / writer didn't give $2. Just did not. And
but guess what? I love the fact that he didn't.
That's what I'm saying. Because it's like, okay. In the original definition of racism, yes, they were.
Mm-hmm.
They were.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like when you watch a cinematic film and you know it's not real, we sanction a lot of things that we shouldn't. Like when you watch a scary movie, oh, that bitch is gonna die.
Mm-hmm.
She should die for making that much noise. Gonna get the rest of them killed. There's a black person right beside you. Normally he'd be killed first, but now you making all that noise, so now you got to die. Just like what's that one character in Scary Movie when the bones were coming? Oh, thank you, Lord. Like all that, right? So I think that's what we're seeing with Undiscovered Country. It's just like, yeah, it's racism. No, it's not right. But because it's science fiction, and again, I can see how it's like very, very wrong, because admittedly it is wrong because of the way, not even the way, what Klingons were meant to represent. That's the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they were meant to represent the gall of Russians and the look of African Americans, yeah, it's a problem.
The supposed look.
Supposed look. And damn anyone who says that we look like Klingons. But that, taking all of that out though, I'm looking at it like this, they killed, not they, but one of them went out of their way to kill his son. You would have thought that he would have. Now, this is where William Shatner had the problem. In Star Trek V, again, I guess they skipped over that film, you can actually see a Klingon going out of his way to apologize to Kirk for going rogue and doing his own thing. Christopher Lloyd's Klingon character did the exact same thing, went rogue to go and get Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
Just like in Generations, the TNG era, the Dora sisters went rogue to get the shit.
Klingons do that repeatedly. If you really like that, that's very typical of who they are.
It's very typical of who they are. Now, on the political scale, they're allied with the Federation, blase, 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 and they're like, but this is the thing. Whichever Klingon succeeds, that's what goes for the Klingon Empire. Even Worf managed to kill, what's his name, Gowron.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he did it the Klingon way.
How many times could Worf have become the chancellor of the Klingon Empire? Like, it's just like they just want him to have it. Here you go, Worf. Here you go, Worf, and he just never takes it. Different show.
That is a whole different show. That is a whole different show, because Worf's character is so interesting. Like, but that is a whole different. I don't even know if that's a Black Trek. We'll get into that later on, guys. Thank you for tuning in to our hour and 15-minute long segment of Black Trek, where we talk about the racism of Undiscovered Country, but how much we really don't give a shit. You know, it's just whatever. Look, I tried to say it in the most nice way, but it came off maybe kind of boring, because it's like, I know it's wrong, but like, bro, it's Undiscovered Country. That fight scene, like, and their blood is pink, and they had boots and everything. In the mind rape scene with Spock, and like he went into her head.
Kim Cattrall.
Yeah, did you know that she took nudes on the bridge and Spock had them destroyed?
Spock?
Oh, my bad. Leonard Nimoy.
Why would she do that?
She was free.
Is that why she was never brought back?
Mm-hmm.
Ah, okay.
That's why we never see her again.
Okay.
But at least her actress. But that's just something that I learned. She had the pointed ears, and she had the wig, and she somewhere in the middle of the night took nudes on the captain's seat.
I forget her name, but she used to play on Cheers. What's her name?
The-
Kirstie
the-
Alley.
yeah,
So Kirstie Alley and your girl Kim Cattrall, they're supposed to be the exact same character.
it was supposed to be Savick.
Supposed to be the exact same character. Supposed to be. But because they replaced her, they were just like, nah, it's just gonna be like a whole new person. But remember, like Spock and your girl, like they had like a special relationship, and so at some point you're like saying to yourself, how could this have happened? Like, how could this have happened? Like he was just cool with your girl, now he's cool with this one. Like this is quick for Spock. You know what I'm saying? If this was Kirk, it would make sense, but it's quick for Spock. So that's why.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
See, now I gotta watch Undiscovered Country again.
Go ahead on. Well, watch which one was Kirstie Alley on? Whichever one she was on. You got to start there and then go to that one.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks for tuning in to Trekker's Delight Black Trek Live Special, our very first one. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to both our YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Facebook channels. We really love you guys. Thank you for all the support. And to the one person that has been watching us this entire time, you're awesome, even though you probably just opened it and laid your phone down while you were washing dishes. But anyway, you have a good one and live long and prosper. Peace.